Greetings, everyone. I think it's spiritual. I think you're the one who asked the question, asked me to share my secret in, keeping my skin youthful looking. And I'm going to share a few things here. So apart from, little tricks that I use over the years, and I'll get into that another time, there are so many different things that I do that I think contribute to you know, my skin looking healthier. I don't always have the best health regimen, even though I should, and even though I know what to do, but bad habits always creep in. So when I'm on a strict vegetarian diet, I see a big difference with my skin, but every so often I fall off that wagon and I start introducing things in my diet that is not really the best for me. For example, chicken. I'd be off that for years, and then I would introduce it back into my diet for a lot of reasons that I could explain at another time. But I notice when I'm meat free that my skin is healthier and I am more youthful. So I recommend it, but it's not always cut and dry for some people, depending on your health situation. Um, I get a lot of sleep. I am someone who loves my sleep. I don't sleep in the daytime, even when I'm home. For some reason, it feels like control for me as far as not sleeping in the daytime. I don't want to get in the habit of sleeping in the daytime, and then when I get back, and every so often my patterns change, and my life cycle changes, and there are things that I'm doing in the daytime, and I don't want to get so comfortable to where I'm sleeping in the daytime, and then it's really difficult when that cycle changes. I don't drink alcohol, and I'm not against people who do, but it's something that I choose not to do because, I had an alcoholic mother, and I remember some bad experiences when I was a child because of that. So I don't drink alcohol. Also, when I was a single parent, I just didn't want to do anything that could cause a negative impact on my children. I don't smoke. And I'm not against smoking in terms of sensimania and things like that. I think it has health benefits. I don't know if smoking of it so much has health benefits, but I understand it's a sacrament for Rastafarians, and so I have no problems with it. So I don't smoke, I don't drink alcohol, and I drink a lot of water. Now, I never used to like to drink water, to be honest with you, but again, life cycle, life changes require me to introduce more water into my diet, and now I can't live without it. I drink a lot of water. But I'm telling you about these physical things, alcohol and sleeping and all of that. But I think what helps me the most is my understanding of myself in a spiritual light. And I think that's one of the biggest problems a lot of people have. They don't know that you have to balance body, mind, and health. In terms of physical activities, I'm not always the most physical because in the winter months, I'm limited in going outdoors, walking, and that's my favorite exercise. Regardless of the exercise that I use, it always falls off. I'm not very disciplined when it comes to working out at home. I do a better job at the gym, and I haven't been going to the gym for a while, but I walk a lot, and especially this time of the year, I'm about to start a second, regiment. So the physical thing is very important, but I think what is more important is that spiritual thing, that taking time to know when to tune out any negative thing that might be happening or negative voices, how to tap in to that peaceful place when it's necessary, and also how to, if something is bothering me, how to address it. I don't keep things inside of me anymore. I used to do that, and it was not a very good thing. So if I have an issue with anyone in my household, I don't allow it to fest. I put people down and I said, we need to talk. And sometimes they listen and listen and listen and listen, but I'm not going to stop talking until I feel better. So I advocate for myself in my private life, in my own personal life. I advocate for myself as far as living in a society where advocacy is always very important for the African person. You have to be prepared to advocate for yourself and for your family. And if you're not doing that, it's very unfortunate. I think for a lot of our kids, our parents or our loved ones don't advocate for us. And we send a very, very terrible message to them. You know, sometimes in their lives, in their young lives, they come on all kinds of terrible things said to them treated a way that if you don't advocate for them when they're young, they'll grow up and they'll just be broken, like most of us are, because we didn't have that strong family tie, or we didn't have individuals who saw us valuable enough to advocate for us. So I advocate for myself. I advocate for myself. And in the last few years, I've had some great victories from advocating for myself. Now, someone would say, I'm so proud of myself, but I just think there's something wrong with that. Somebody else should be telling you, I'm proud of you. So it's not about being proud of myself. I'm just satisfied that the obstacles that came in my way that appeared to be impossible, or were other folks, because there's no one else like Black people who will come to you to tell you cannot do this or you cannot do that. They're always the ones to discourage you, even though they're going through the same things, even though they face the same kinds of traumas in their life, or people, you know, come into their lives and leave them with a lot of wounds, and they see you going through the same things. They're the first ones to tell you, forget about it, you can't win. And it's not really about winning. It doesn't matter if you lose. As long as someone does something to you that hurt you, that hurt you physically and emotionally, you must advocate for yourself. And there's no greater giant in this world to whom you cannot stand up to. And so whatever victories I've had in my life, and I use that word loosely, I did it not because I wasn't afraid. I was afraid because I realized that there are people in this world who are very powerful, and if you dare to stand in front of them to say that I'm defending my right, you subject yourself to grave danger. But there comes a time when you have to evaluate what is worth living for or dying for. And you're doing it for yourself, or you're doing it for your immediate family. Now, some of the things that I consider victorious are things that I started out trying to do for myself and my household. But in the process, I'm saying I never want to see this happen to anybody again. And so I'm going to take the time and the energy and the effort to defend this thing, so I can establish this ground for other people like myself. Persistency is critical. Persistent in whatever you're doing, if it is something that is going to help you to grow, is something that is going to uplift you and those around you. Be persistent. So if you're pursuing a career and this is something that you really love, you're not just doing it because you want people to think you're special, but you have a special love for this thing, pursue it and focus on the end goal. So you're having a difficult time, it's difficult for you to even face some of the daily things you have to overcome, the hurdles that is. Just focus on the future and never accept no. Never accept no for something that you really love or want to do, or a result that you hope to see. Never say no. So if you fall down 100 times and you get up and you still feel that same way, you still feel driven or motivated to do that particular thing, then do it again, because there's no failure. Every time you come upon these hurdles and you fall, it is just an opportunity to get up and to be stronger. Because if you can remember, if you did a test and you got an answer wrong, and when you found out the answer to that test, you never forget that ever again. And so in the falling down times, before you get up, know why you fell. And when you're getting up, get up with a strong mind, a determined mind, to make sure that that doesn't happen to you again. Learn from every mistake. So you can fall down 100 times, but every time you rise again, you rise with purpose. So the things that I've been able to accomplish, to be honest with you, well, it's the most recent one. When it was over, I was by myself. I didn't have anyone to share the results with. You know, it just happened that sometimes these things you have to go through it alone, because if you don't, you start to give credit to man. And when I say man, mankind, you start to look to somebody to say, well, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have accomplished this. And the credit must never go to another human being. It must go to the great ones around us, you know, divine presence or spirit within and without. So in terms of staying youthful, I don't always feel that way. I have my top moments. I have time when, you know, I think the moments of oppression are there to build character. And they show sometimes on your face. When you're tired, you can tell when someone is tired. You can see when someone is not feeling well. You know, all these things. I try not to show too much of the negatives anymore, because in our role as, you know, facilitators or influencers, people are looking up to you. So you're not trying to pretend and be a hypocrite, but at the same time, when you know that there's so many persons are depending on you to give them a good word, to give them a kind word, to give them some kind of encouragement, they can't handle seeing you down too much. And so, you know, I share some things that are not always most uplifting, but most of the stuff, like if I have health issues or, you know, financial burdens or whatever, I try to hold that down, minimize that, because again, most of these things are an illusion. The whole idea of poverty itself is an illusion. No one has to be poor, because there's enough resources for everyone to live comfortable. But because, again, because of selfishness, because of greed, you know, because of wickedness in high places, you have some folks going without, people homeless. Why? There's land. If 1,000 people can live in an apartment building, you know, and in some places there's no apartment building and everyone owns their own home. That just goes to show you, you know, it's the selfishness and greed of people that causes some or a few to have a lot and some don't. Now, sometimes when I talk about poverty and wealth, people could misunderstand, you know, or think that I'm saying wealth is a bad thing. It's not. It's the attitude about wealth and how you pursue it and how you maintain it and what you're prepared to do to hold it that makes the difference. So for me personally, I want to be wealthy. I want to be wealthy, not just for my own status, but because of what I know you can do when you are, exposed to certain lifestyle or certain experiences, or have access to certain kinds of financial freedom, the things that you could do. So to gain wealth for myself is not just to live the great life and just to show off on people, but to know the lives that I can touch. Because with the little that I have, I've been able to do things that touch other person's life in ways that when I watch them on the receiving end, I feel so blessed. Those things help me to feel blessed. And so when I pray and I ask for prosperity, I ask it with the intention to share. Not to share so the whole world know how I'm sharing, because there's never really ever a time in my life when I'm not looking for the opportunity to share with somebody, to just give them that brief moment, not the thing that I share, but for them to have hope to say, wait a minute, there is something greater than I. And it's not about believing, it's experiencing. I was at the bank yesterday again trying to get back my card that I lost, and having a conversation with this young lady, an African woman, and she was just talking about what's going on in the world right now and how her job is affected by it. And a woman came up and she was singing some hymn, and she was really loud. Everyone was kind of looking at her feeling strange, but I had no problem with the way she was singing or what she was singing. But after she was done singing, she started having a conversation with the young lady I was talking to. And she started insulting her and started cursing her. And the girl was trying to explain to her that you can't have more than 5 persons in the bank at any time because of the social distancing. But she was cursing out this young lady who was just trying to explain to her, I'm just doing my job. And I looked at that and I thought to myself, now, I don't want that kind of spirituality. One where it makes me look pious, but my relationship with individuals on a daily basis does not demonstrate that. And as the girl and I were talking, I said, if I hear you talking about this fact that you know something great or someone greater than yourself, and when I look, you're hungry and you're poor and nothing is working out for you ever, then I'm saying to myself, not to you, but to myself, I'm saying I don't want a part of that. Because when you understand yourself and understand your spirituality and understand that all things are possible, not because you believe, but because you put yourself in a position to experience. So I have talked so many times here about what I don't believe in, or what I understand, and explain my own way of understanding whatever it is that I understand. And folks assume or make assumptions about me when I have not really told you what I believe yet, or what I think based on my experience. So you can't tell folks, especially our people, that, or not tell, ask them any question about what they claim they believe. And I'm going to tell you right here, most of them have no understanding of what they claim they believe. And so I stay youthful because I hold on to what I believe in based on my experience alone. And the victories that I've had in my life, sometimes I just can't believe them. I just can't believe that I was able to achieve those things. And let's roll that back. Because I did nothing. All I did was demonstrate faithfulness. Faithfulness and patience. And knowing when to say, I don't know what to do, tell me what to do. I seek counsel, but I don't seek counsel so much from man. Because I've had advice from people and they had no bad intention, but when I followed those advice, it just brought me into more despair. So I finally understand at this point in my life when to go seek counsel. And even though I have my opinions and they may come across as very strong, I don't force my opinions on anybody. I express them, and if you can relate to them, you do. If you don't relate to them, you just don't, and we keep it moving. But I think it's a lot of things apart from the physical things that you would do to stay young. I think staying young, the biggest and best way or greatest way to stay young is in your mind. Stay in your mind, that's where it starts. If you get up and you say, I feel so old, you're going to look old. If you say, I'm tired, and you keep dwelling on that, you're going to stay tired. To be motivated by just what other persons around you are doing is a good thing. but try to stay motivated with your own push and your own pull, and figure out some secrets, because there are some secrets that no one teach us. You only learn those through experience. And be prepared to spend time alone, a lot of time, a lot of lonely time, and understand that sometimes when people are removed from your life, it is the universe forcing you to sit by yourself and try to figure out some things where you're taught. You literally hear the words in your mind, if not in your dream, in your daily walk. And never underestimate anyone, a child, an old person, an animal. They're all teachers. We're all teachers. Also recognize when it's the up time, and in that moment give thanks for everything. Always remember to give thanks. Give thanks. Give thanks. Be thankful, because none of us will experience that upsurge all the time. It's a cycle. Life is a cycle. And if you recognize the cycle, you see when the change is coming. As I said, the stronger the whirlwind, the greater the change. When you see these forces that seem to be coming against you, and instead of just get depressed about it, sometimes you have to surrender to it. And you'll be surprised to see the things that you do and achieve. You can sit in a corner by yourself. And the best thing is, people don't know. It's nice to see changes in the world, and you're part of that change, and no one knows that you are part of that, or that your stamp is up on that. I used to work in the banking industry some years ago, and I was one of the signers, and I used to sign these certs worth millions of dollars. Somebody would be 40 years old, and these are very wealthy people, and they would buy certs or certificates, stocks, these bonds, whatever, for 50 years maturity. And so by the time they're 90, that money is left to their grandchild. And I used to be the signer, and I would sign this all the time. I would think to myself, here I am struggling financially, but look at my signature on millions of dollars. I was signing these. And when I looked at how some of these people think, someone would be 40 or 50 years old, and they're saying, I'm going to buy this cert for my grandchild 50 years from now. That's what we need to do as a people. We think about now. Let's get the thing that we want now. How much are you taking from that dollar to put aside for the future, for your children? And many of us did not do that because nobody taught us how to do that, and so we run into these financial problems. But at this point in my life, I look at progress, I look at maturity as a blessing. And the mistakes of my past that I made, financial or otherwise, are sort of a stepping stone to where I want to go in the future. And I'm encouraging you to do the same, to stay positive, to love yourself first and foremost. And by extension, you love other people, because the true love comes from within. No one can create this for you. You have to understand it's within yourself. And so when you love yourself, you will not allow anyone to abuse you. There's no room, there's no tolerance for it. And you're not going to be afraid of anyone who tries to violate you or take what is your given or natural right. And there's nothing that you cannot do. There's absolutely nothing, no matter how impossible it seems, that you cannot do. Now, somebody else who's just religious is going to come here and talk about blowing breath and whatever. We're not talking about that, because, even folks who claim that they are a part of whatever religion in times like this would have wanted to see them get out there and show us what they believe in, and they can't, because they didn't believe in anything but just fluff. Anything that you claim you believe in if you're not experiencing it in your daily life, it is not worth believing in. But that's just my opinion. So yes, so many different things that contribute to, you know, me even staying healthy when I have other underlying issues that could have been worse, and I'm not on any medication, I'm not on any drugs. You know, sometimes I'm tempted because it gets difficult, but I push through and I trust the process. And I remember all the experiences in my life to this point, and I look back and see what has worked to make me a better person. And so when the problems come, I understand that there's always a solution. Stay blessed, everybody.